I'm feeling particularly blessed tonight. It is the 15th anniversary, but I just flew back today from London, from Heathrow. I was over at the Skoll Social Entrepreneur Conference in Oxford for the last 3 days, and I've just learned that the airport's been closed in Heathrow because of the volcanic eruption, I think, in Iceland, and there's a lot of fog and ash moving towards England. I flew right through it. But apparently the last flight out, so I'm feeling blessed to be with you. I'm also tired. So I'm going to tell you just two stories, really, that say, I think, a lot about Citizen Schools, one from the beginning of our work and one from more recently. The story from the beginning is the first apprenticeship at Citizen Schools, which I had a chance to teach in the fall of 1994. And it culminated in a day, seems like it was yesterday, in January of 1995. And this was a journalism class. I had been a newspaper reporter at the Patriot Ledger before starting Citizen Schools, and had this idea, wrote a concept paper, and went to talk to Principal Nydia Mendez at the Dever School and said, I've got this idea, I think it could be powerful, but I need to test it out. So Nydia invited me in. I had a chance to work with 10 fifth graders. And over the course of 3 months, we got together once a week, and every kid got to write 2 articles. We sold $400 worth of advertisements. We had comics. We had editorials. Kid wrote a feature story about a guy from the Boston Bruins coming to his housing development, and how it was the greatest day in the history of his housing development. And it was amazing. I had good days and not so good days. But the last day was an amazing day. I rented a van, piled all the kids into the van. We drove to Chelsea, Massachusetts. And we put together this 8-page tabloid newspaper. And we had a chance, the kids had a chance in Chelsea to see their newspaper flying off this old web-based printing press, getting automatically folded up in bunches of 500, twine wrapped around their newspaper. And as it came off and as they piled back into that van, went back to their school, the kids were high-fiving each other. They were so full of pride. They were published authors. They were producers. They were thinkers, and they were heroes in their school. And I realized then that we have the power to do something incredible because we're finding a way to help kids be successful. It's as simple as that. We're helping kids be producers, and we're helping kids be successful. And we've been successful, I think, in large part because of that core idea, but because of a staff that has been relentless in making it better year after year after year. And the staff of Citizen Schools brings an unbelievable combination of compassion and passion for excellence. They're always trying to make it better. Right now, our focus is on how do we take our academic work led by our staff and make it more rigorous. And we've developed a state-of-the-art teaching and instructional rubric. And we now have all of our frontline staff 5 times a year get a formal observation, get feedback. A typical teacher in the Boston Public Schools and in most urban systems are lucky if once a year they get formal feedback on their teaching. Our folks are getting it 5 times a year. Pat talked about some of the results. We're incredibly proud at the results we've accomplished in terms of higher graduation rates, higher proficiency rates, starting to turn around schools. We're finding ourselves now in the middle of the education reform debate in Boston, in Massachusetts, and across the country. And what we're looking to do, our top priority in the coming years, is to take our expanded learning time model that first started here in Boston, and now in Revere and in Malden, and bring that to school districts across the country. So I'm flying. I was in New Mexico a week ago. I was in North Carolina the week before that, talking to school district leaders who across the country are facing a collective $36 billion deficit, laying off teachers right and left. But we're finding school superintendents in Santa Fe, New Mexico, in Redwood City, California, in Oakland, in Durham, in New York City, in Newark, New Jersey, here in Boston, coming and saying, we want to invest in Citizen Schools. Even at a time of cutbacks, we will put money on the table to help you leverage more private money and more federal government money to help bring this model that we know works to more kids in our community. And I want to close with just one story out of a city just north of here, city of Revere, which, as Pat mentioned, is our newest city for Citizen Schools. We just started one ELT program. And Revere is traditionally been kind of a white working class city. It's becoming more of a kids of color working class city. The school we're in, 61 different languages spoken in that school. 80% of the kids from high poverty families. The school committee and the superintendent of schools and the city council have now embraced citizen schools so much because of that one experience at the Garfield Middle School. They want to bring us into all 3 of their middle schools. And at a time of cutbacks, a time of difficulty, the superintendent just this last week shepherded through the school committee a vote to put money on the table to help challenge us to raise more money from the private sector and from the federal government to bring citizen schools to every kid in the middle schools of Revere, Massachusetts. And we're doing it, thank you, let's applaud for that. We're doing it because of men like Dan McGuire, who's a postal worker in Revere, but also sits on the school committee. And Dan related to us how he himself dropped out of high school because he never really got turned on, he never got hooked by learning in high school. And he was lucky enough in his era, you could drop out of high school and get a good job. And he did, he got a job as a postal worker, he makes a good living, and he's able to provide for his family. But Dan told us, he said, I got a son who's in 10th grade going to 11th grade. I think he's a year away from dropping out. He hasn't hooked. He didn't get hooked in middle school. He's getting more and more disengaged in high school. I think we're about to lose him. I also, though, Dan said, I got a 4th grade daughter. He said, please bring citizen schools to Revere, bring it to every middle school. I want at least one of my kids to get turned on by learning, hooked by learning, excited by learning, and to stay in school and be able to take advantage of the best that this country has to offer. So we're doing that in Revere, we're doing it in Santa Fe, we're doing it across the country, and with your help, we're going to bring it deep here in Boston, and we're going to bring it across the country. And I wanted to thank you very much for all the support you've brought to citizen schools for 15 years. This country is being held back by education in many ways. And Citizen Schools has a solution that works, an idea that works. It started here in Boston, and with your help, we're going to bring it across the country, and we're going to bring it deep across Massachusetts. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the night.